We are in a new era, baby. That's right. Look, I had no idea this kind of thing would actually be happening, where now massive YouTubers are apparently getting dragged into the console war. Literally, this is going to be some of the craziest things ever being seen. And the even weirder part is now the same conversation is coming back into the space of video games, where Game Pass cannibalizes the video game sales. Look, I really don't care what actual fanboys who basically suckle off Colin Moriarty and just parrot everything he says say on Twitter, but the actual insanity of people going around and trying to defend corporations to take more of your money because you want to support the developers really is honestly insane to me. When every single time we see people saying things like support the devs, what happens? Those devs get fired. So what supporting are we doing then? But all this came around simply because of one simple tweet, as it always tends to do. You see, the Claire Obscure Expedition 33 Twitter account said this the other day, and here we are, 3 days after launch, 1 million copies sold. Thank you for believing in Claire Obscura Expedition 33. This is absolutely monumental in my opinion. The game is somewhat okay in PC performance wise, but everything else about the game to me has been pretty fantastic with my very short limited amount of time playing that game so far. The combat and turn-based mechanics are fantastic. The game looks good. The music is phenomenal, and it's been getting rave reviews everywhere. But with a big BU double T at the end of it, she's too thick for it. It turns out that because of this simple tweet, apparently now everyone is now talking about how Game Pass cannibalizes video game sales. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not. Again. We're doing this again. But you see, the thing is, we're going to tie two things together. One thing is about video game ownership. The other one is about cannibalized sales. And it really goes to show that console fanboys, and especially PlayStation fanboys, one, think they actually owned their games when nobody really owns their games anyways anymore nowadays. And two, don't really understand how things even work in the gaming industry. Let's go. Nicola, our favorite bald dummy, went ahead and tweeted this out the other day saying, how can anyone feel so strongly about physical games to the point they skip the Switch 2 because a download code in the box, and also admit they went from the Switch to Steam Deck exclusively in the same breath. People need to fall in love with games more than the way we access them. Nicola, I gotta tell you right now, you've made an absolutely huge mistake. Number one, because you continually talked about how people access their games over and over again. If it's not on PlayStation, if it's not bought physically, if you don't buy it, then of course you get mad about it. In fact, the consistent tweets you've posted about me the last couple of days pretty much goes to show that you have no idea what you're actually talking about. It really is wild to me. And the fact you're going to take Mutahar completely out of context for a clip, by the way, to go ahead and post on Twitter to give you a gotcha for the guy really goes to show that you have no idea what you're in fact doing and or talking about. Because if you knew how the Steam Deck in fact worked, you wouldn't have made this tweet. If you knew why PC gaming was in fact so ubiquitous with actual proper ownership, you wouldn't have made this tweet. But Nick, I gotta be honest with you, my guy. It's going to be a horrible night to have a curse. Because Mutahar, in fact, did find your tweet, and here's what he said. If you could apply your few brain cells, you could understand the Steam Deck is an open platform. I play plenty of DRM-free games from GOG and other platforms that are complete packages on the deck. You don't just play games from Steam on there. And this is what I'm talking about, Nicola. Your actual point directly contradicts what you're talking about, because you say people need to be less concerned with how people access their games and more about loving them. Yet at the same exact time, you're trying to chastise Mutahar for actually going around and saying, hey, I properly own my games on the PC platform because it is an open platform. And there are DRM-free games that are complete packages that I don't have to be on the internet to actually go ahead and actually play. I can simply have the install file if I need to, and then keep that on my hard drive if I want to. There's only a one-time download of actually downloading the install files and playing offline. If you knew about PC gaming, you wouldn't have made this tweet. If you knew how GOG worked, you wouldn't have made this tweet. But here you are, looking like an actual clown. But what are you going to do? Are you going to go ahead and be like, whoa, my bad, I didn't even know how PC gaming worked? No! You're going to double down! and I'm here for it. Nicola then replies to Mutahar saying this, then you should have made that point in the video because on face value, that sounded sus as f. Mutahar replies, have you ever actually used a Steam Deck or do you think it's literally a Steam locked device? Nicola's final response before going ahead and shutting down and getting ratioed is, I know you can make it open if you go out of your way for it, but you have to understand, I saw you hugging your physical games saying they're important to me, and 2 seconds later lifted the deck up like Rafiki on Pride Rock just made me scratch my head. Oh! You know I made you scratch your head, Nicola? Because like Mutahar said, you don't have two brain cells to rub together and make a spark of a thought, my guy. It doesn't take much to go ahead and add other games onto the Steam Deck. Literally, you press the power button, you go to desktop mode, and it's a PC. It's literally a computer. That's the whole point of it. The only time that the deck is actually a Steam Deck is when you're in game mode. And that's basically just a UI skinned over what's actually happening. So again, you don't know what's truly happening in PC gaming or what happens in that space altogether. It's best for you not to open your mouth at all anymore ever again, because at the same time you're making yourself look like a fool. Video games are important to a lot of people, myself included, and even Mutahar. The difference is that the PC platform is an open platform where even though you can't physically hug the product, you can absolutely keep backups of it and in a true DRM-free format, not required to be online, not have to sign into something else, not have to be responsible for anything else, and just play the game as you would intend to play it on your PC without any interruptions whatsoever or any updates or patches or posts, anything like that. You don't experience that because you never had it before, because you're stuck in PlayStation land. In fact, you're the same guy who kissed his PlayStation 5 Pro. So literally, you trying to talk about anything in terms of ownership truly is the more hilarious part about all of this. And maybe next time, don't tweet anything. You might save yourself the embarrassment, because that is embarrassing. But you see, now when we talk about ownership, it gets even further, because apparently everybody was then talking about Expedition 33 and the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, going around and saying, hey, you should buy your games and not rent them, instead of support the developers. And of course, me calling this out made me the asshole. Boy, I'm sure it's going to turn out great for everybody else now, isn't it? True Gamer 1111111111111111. I'm sure that's not a fanboy or a bot. I just bought these two games to own them and support the developers. Pensive smiling emoji. Buy your games, no renting. Hashtag Expedition 33, hashtag Oblivion Remastered. At the time I screenshot this tweet, it was 1.1 million views, 3.3 thousand likes. Literally, this is a direct dig at everything that is part of Xbox Game Pass. And honestly, nobody cares how you play your video game. Nobody does. In fact, for you to sit there and pretend that you own these video games is the more hilarious part about all of that. Because when I quote tweeted you and called you out saying that you're an idiot and don't know how to actually take care of your money, it basically goes to show that you clearly have no idea how digital games actually work, because you don't own these games, True Gamer. You don't. What you own is a license to play the game. And when the license expires, it is no longer yours. In fact, these licenses can be, in fact, revoked from you, and that all that money that you spent to give the support to developers has been evaporated. In fact, that money doesn't go to the developers. It goes to the publishers. You're giving Xbox more of your money is what you're doing. You haven't realized that now, have you? You're not giving any money to the developers. They've already been paid. The publisher paid them. That's why they got to publish the game. Now the publisher says you get a license for this game and you're going to give us the money. That's how that works. You're not supporting the devs. You don't own these games. You own a license to these games. You are being completely idiotic with your money when you could have just bought Game Pass and played it on there specifically. As you talk about no renting, you are in fact renting. You're paying more individually per game to rent the game than you are actually owning it. But you see, Deadly Headley actually caught wind of this tweet, and here's what he had to say. Here's a revolutionary thought. Enjoy your stuff however you want to enjoy your stuff. And don't let some random on Twitter tell you how to live your life. With Mickey, your ultimate savior, having a PS Plus service icon for a profile picture, which we know we know where this is going to go. He said this: my family can sell my gaming collection. When Game Pass gamers, you get nothing. Mickey, who are they going to sell the games to, my boy? GameStop? What are you going to get, 4 cents per game? What are we talking about here? These aren't PS1 and PS2 games that have value over time because they're out of print. We're talking about games that are mass produced and digitally available for everybody to get. So you're buying physical games that have no real value because you have to be online to play most of them or have a downloaded patch to actually fix the game. Then you're going to go ahead and talk about like when your family can sell your game collection? Ah, yes. What? I can't even process this thought right now. Why would this be the one thing in your head being like, you know what? I will pass down my wall of virginity to my fake son that I had to go and get because no one would ever want to touch me, because when they walk into my house, the first thing they see is a giant wall of game cases. Yes, that's going to be your logic right there. I'm going to give the company more money to not own the product, even though I bought it physically, to then go ahead and say, maybe one day when I pass away, it'll get passed on to my family and they'll sell it to GameStop. A GameStop will say 5 cents, 3 cents, 8 cents, 10 cents. Do you want a gift card? Okay, great. Here's $5 back from the $2,000 your son spent spending money on games. Am I the only one taking crazy pills here? Is this really what's going on right now? Are we seriously sitting here and using this as an excuse in order to pay more money for video games because you want to have some self-gratificational feeling about things? You guys care more about how you feel rather than the actual zeros in your bank account. And that's the real problem, my boy. But of course, it always gets worse. As Marble 1984-1, which I said it that way because the reason why it's 1984-1 is because he put his birth year in his profile name, and that's when he was born, so he's in his 40s. Here we go. He says this is what Game Pass simps look like when they try to laugh at PS5 Pro owners that actually pay for their games. And he used an AI image of a PlayStation fan eating a meal in a restaurant where the Xbox fan is poor and outside and homeless eating bread and rice. AI was a mistake. This is what we're flexing now. This is how we are. Oh, look at me. I'm completely financially irresponsible with everything that I make and everything that I own. I spend more money on frivolous products on video games than this other person does. Therefore, I'm better than them. Literally, you are the reason why the entire grind culture wake up at 4 a.m. dude actually exists. You can talk about, oh, you're broke or you're poor, but I would rather look and feel broke and poor than to actually be broke and poor, as you are living in a mountain of debt more than likely than anything else by the actual statue of what happens in the US economy nowadays. As we're watching on Twitter where people try to flex how much money they spend on a video game to prove they're not poor. You see, the thing is, if you were actually not poor, you wouldn't be spending that money because you would know what the value of an actual dollar is, and you would realize, hey, if I can get my entertainment for cheaper at other places, I can then save that money. It's the exact same reason why you see people who are actually wealthy not dress like they're wealthy. It's called stealth wealth. It's a whole process, the whole thing that happens. If you look at people that actually have money, they wear clothes that don't have any logos. They wear things that are very cheap. They're very meticulous with where their money goes. They don't frivolously spend it everywhere. But clearly, the only thing you want to do is flex on people spending more money on products to give you a marginal upgrade on games you actually don't even own because you're not even buying the game, you're buying a license. But hey, ownership, am I right? But you see, we're not going to stop here because as everybody's talking about what ownership actually is or buying games supporting the developers, in video games, no one's realizing exactly what happens with developers directly. So let's take a look at that and see what actually happened. Bucky from Palworld tweeted this out the other day. Expedition 33 is the latest game to get unwillingly dragged through gaming Twitter as people debate the validity of Game Pass. I feel like I have just a little bit more knowledge on the topic than most do, so I'll just say yes. Yes, it is very worth having your game on Game Pass. In fact, Bucky continues by saying this: I speak from the point of view of an indie dev, by the way. I've no experience working in the AAA space, so I'm not sure what sort of deals are cooked up there, but we have shipped 2 games on Game Pass, and we're very happy with both. So all I can say is I'm happy with the experience that I had. And this is the direct dagger through the heart of every single fanboy on Twitter right now, coping, seething, molding, and raging, trying to prove their point about Game Pass being bad for the gaming industry, even though we all know all they've been doing is just parroting whatever Colin Moriarty says. But Bucky says the point directly. As a developer who's published 2 games onto Game Pass, they're very happy with the returns that they've been getting. So clearly, people are making money off of Game Pass, whether the actual games sell or they don't. The idea of like Game Pass cannibalizes sales truly is an irrelevant one, especially from a gaming perspective. None of you guys are in the actual boardrooms of these companies. None of you guys own stock in them, and if you do, it's very few shares more than likely. And on top of that, you're literally going around caring about what a company sells rather than the actual product the company is actually making for you to purchase in the first place, or even play in their sub-service. If Xbox didn't feel Game Pass was sustainable or actually make money, they would have canceled it, because for Christ's sake, they canceled everything else in the fucking something they've ever worked on now, haven't they? So maybe take it from an actual developer who's made a game, put a game on Game Pass, and had enjoyed the fruits of their labor on that service, and going around and trying to say like, you gotta buy your games, no renting, is really not going to do anything beneficial for you, because if now games have gone up to $70 and soon to be $80 thanks to Nintendo, you're basically going around and saying, hey, you're nothing more than a pay pig ready to get goat-seed by every single company on the face of the earth. You're nothing more than a mark, honestly. A paid pig cash mark. But speaking of marks, you wouldn't believe who replied. Christopher Cockeyed Dring quote tweeted Bucky from Palworld saying this: depends entirely on the game and your business. If you're a small publisher and developer with a new IP, 100%. If you're Take-Two with GTA, not so much. And Bucky's response is, we are a small developer with a new IP, so yes, I agree. If you've ever wondered if Christopher Dring has a bias, well, here it is in full display. Imagine being so completely out of touch to use possibly the most anticipated game in the last decade as a way to go ahead and say, no, you shouldn't put your game on Game Pass unless you fit these specific criterias. And then unless you do fit them, then they should go this way directly. But of course, this is also the same guy that's been very anti-Xbox and very anti-Game Pass the entire time. The thing is, though, like Phil Spencer said before, Game Pass isn't for everyone, whether it's a developer or even a consumer. The thing is, everyone's trying to go ahead and put a sort of boogeyman on the actual Game Pass service, even though they're not realizing they are not owning their games, that they own a license to the game and everything can be taken away from them. The fact that digital games are like 80% of all sales right now really goes to show that you don't own your games anyways. You're spending more money to basically rent your game instead of just renting your game directly. So why the fuck would you even care where you rent the game from? But it is truly hilarious watching everyone twist themselves into a pretzel, trying to go around and be like, oh, Game Pass bad, buy your games. Look, this is the first time in a long time that Microsoft, in fact, has been truly pro-consumer, even though they did raise the price of Game Pass recently. The fact that for $20 you get all those games directly to play at any specific time, and even then, there's ways of getting Game Pass for absolutely no pennies at all and completely free, truly is insane. Yes, you can do that. I do that right now. I don't pay a penny for Game Pass. But this complete lack of self-awareness and stating things like, buy your games, no renting, gotta do it like this or else you gotta support the devs, truly goes to show that many of you guys are in fact nothing but marks. And going around and talking about ownership of video games when you only own the license to play the game and not the game itself, even when the game is on physical, truly goes to show that you don't know anything about how the gaming industry is trying to screw you in every sense of the word. You are in fact renting your games right now, even when you spend $70 on them, especially if you buy them digitally. Think about it. No physical case, no manual, no shipping, no logistics, no putting it on a shelf, no driving to the store to pick it up, no other ways of actual extra costs added onto it, but just charging you $70 for a digital game? Why? You should be paying less money, not more. Games should be $50, not more. The fact that Expedition 33 is doing so well pretty much goes to show that if you price a game correctly, even when it's on Game Pass, sales aren't cannibalized because PC gamers have access to both Game Pass on PC that has Expedition 33 and Steam. And it turns out that it's selling incredibly well on Steam, but also doing really well on PC Game Pass. So no, stop talking about sales cannibalization when you have no idea what it even fucking means. Stop caring about sales of games. Just play the game. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section down below. And if you liked today's video, thank you. And if you didn't like it, fuck you. If you want to see more of this kind of content, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content like this, my hot takes in the gaming industry, and live streams every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 82,000 subscribers, and I just want to say thank you guys so very much. If you want to go ahead and get Discord access, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. If you don't want to spend $1, don't sweat it. Just come on down Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. You have a hell of a time. Trust me. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you goners next time. Peace!
It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? You need to stop everything. What are you doing with your life? This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is cancer. It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? Just stop. Just stop. Stop. No. Just stop. You're a fucking idiot. It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? You need to stop everything. What are you doing with your life? This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is cancer. It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay? No more. Where the fuck are your parents? Just stop. Just stop. Stop. No. Just stop. You're a fucking idiot. This needs